so many things to just front load.
Okay.
I think it might be most prudent to start with a carryover from last week. I was editing and I was listening back to our discussion about Dachshund,
Mhm.
and I was thinking to myself, if Sanderson really wanted to hammer away at the Dachshund is filled with hatred element of his
Mhm.
character, and it feels like that's what he wants to do, but there's just been so little of him, and his actions seemed to be counter to that hatred, and it's to his good quality that he's willing to set aside that hatred
Mhm.
for the sake of making pragmatic decisions.
Mm.
I was imagining what it would have been like if Sanderson had given Dachshund an ideological difference from Elend and had him undermine Elend in some way in this book. And that got me thinking, because basically I was thinking, because his actions and his beliefs aren't necessarily in alignment in that way, and I don't mean that as a pejorative,
Mhm.
I was imagining what it would be like if he were on the council and had done something that had cost Ellen the election for an ideological issue that could have been rooted in that hatred. And I thought, well, that would be really interesting because it would have put Dachshund a bit more at odds with the group. And then I thought, well, if that had happened and that had cost Ellen the election, then we wouldn't have to worry about the problematic issues of, can I change my vote even though I've already cast it, which I was slightly
Yes.
annoyed with.
Yeah.
So
I was more
that,
than slightly annoyed with it.
yeah, I was very annoyed with it. It's one of the weakest parts of the book, I think. And I feel like Sanderson could have given more for Dachshund to do that could have played into that. Anyway, it was a fun, imaginative
You do
experience that
that.
I had. I do
You
that.
do. You go and you rewrite. It's incredible. It's not that you're rewriting it because you're like, ooh, I can do it better. It's just that it seems like when you're reading a story, you what you part of your experience is taking it down other avenues.
Yeah.
I don't have that instinct, but you definitely do.
I like the what if game.
Yeah, yeah, you do. You've got and you the thing is it's you use why it's interesting is you use what is in there in the book currently and you say, "Well, how could you use it? How could you put this factor over here and this factor over here?" And like literally taking the actual characters and putting them in a different situation. It's interesting and that's what we're here to listen to. So, I appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hmm. The only thing I'll add is look, we do have as much as we have a little bit of Dachshund, we do have him as an opposite or an alternative to the way Elend works. He's a lot more practical and pragmatic. But yeah, again, another thing to take away from last chapter, as much as I was like, no, he's dark. You're right. The fact that he doesn't use this as an opportunity to go for another rebellion is it's a sign that he's he's looking out for the good outcomes. He's not just like, oh, I want to get power. That's not there.
Yeah. He's not wholly blinded by his hatred.
Mm.
I think he can still separate what is best for the people
Mm.
versus his own personal hangups. And it seems to me that he only ever does what is best for the people. And maybe that's why I don't
Mm.
mind his hatred so much.
Yeah, he's
Because,
aware of it. And
yeah.
another thing that I see in that in is he's not in it for individual power. It's not like he's power hungry. It's more
Mhm.
like it's about the people. It's about what he wants to do for the people and the
And Kelsier's
revenge he might.
legacy.
Yeah, exactly. It's not personal or I just want to control everything because I'll be better. That's not it. I guess when I say, oh, Doxin is too dark, is, remember I've told you I don't feel connected to him, so I don't really know what's going on with him. But also, it's just that I worry about the corruption,
Yeah.
of absolute power. But that's not to say I wouldn't have cast a vote for him. We could try. We could keep an eye on him. I guess I also love Ellen. So
I mean, after last week, I still think there's a non-zero chance that Doxin could
hmm
end up on the throne in some way.
yeah.
So that conversation aside,
hmm
put it in the prediction log.
Okay. Getting ready. Going to the prediction log. I get very excited when you give me an official prediction.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's fair to call it a prediction after having read this chapter, but here we are.
hmm
The Well of Ascension is portable. Marsh was looking for the Well of Ascension at the Conventicle of Saren and didn't find it. But he does find it, and he brings it back to Luthadel. And Vin, feeling the pulsing getting louder, is Marsh bringing it
hmm
back to Luthadel.
Okay. He found it and brought it back to Luthadel. Okay. This is no. This look. Having read this chapter, you've got this. This is still a prediction. I've
Okay.
put the things as okay. So I've got a major prediction if we're doing bullet points here, right? The Well of Ascension is portable. That's the main thing, right? Then I've got underneath. Marsh was looking for it at the conventicle. Then underneath that, he found it and brought it back to Luthadel, and that's the pulses getting louder for Vin. Okay, it's locked in.
Excellent. And then third and final thing that I have to front load. You can front load whatever you'd like after. All I wrote in my notes was also, uh,
Let me front load that. Okay, what is it? Are you going to leave it a mystery for now, or are you going to relate it to something for us?
I, I was prepared to explain the UG, but if you want to take a
Okay,
quick
thank
guess
you.
at what the
No,
UG
no,
is,
no, I don't. No. I just want to hear you tell me.
there was an offhand comment that I had made in the last episode
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
where I basically said, I hope Sanderson is not making a point of having them all travel leisurely so that they don't make too much distance, such that they wouldn't be able to just rush back if they had to. And I feel,
Sorry. How is that not the first thing I made? I made sure we spoke about, but yes, continue. Sorry.
yeah, I feel a bit of a bait and switch here.
I love that you got it right though, and I was like, no, that can't happen. Really, really. Oh, and you know what? When I got to it, I was like, I also went, but I thought the was kind of like, no, it was not an it was like a, oh, oh, that's how you're gonna do it, huh? Okay. And you saw it so quickly. You were like, and you know what the thing is, you didn't say it was gonna happen.
No, I
You
was
didn't
just
say like,
commenting on how weird it was that they were going at a leisurely pace. It
hmm,
felt so out of sync with
yes,
the current events.
urgency. Yeah, like even though we're going away to save them, it's like urgency is probably gonna happen for all of it, especially because we might have people following us and things like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, he made it a real point to say leisurely, because
Yep.
otherwise we would then be saying they would be far from Luthadel. This doesn't make sense. So
Yep.
okay, it's not a book breaking thing, but
No,
I just called it.
I guess.
One of the worst called it's ever. You're like, oh shit, I didn't even mean to call it. Sorry.
Yup. D-
Oh well.
but on the book breaking comment, do you feel at all bait and switched here, or what?
Mm, I think your comments prepared me for it, so I don't feel like I was bait and switched too much.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe if I was reading it alone, I'd be like frustrated. Yeah. But your comment got me thinking about it, and then when it happened, I was like, "Ha!" So I was too busy into being entertained by that whole thing. So yeah, I don't feel angry. I guess.
Angry's not the right word for me
Or
either.
yeah,
Yeah, it-
betrayed. No, because when you say bait and switch, you think fooled. I think.
yeah, I just, well, I think perhaps fooled is a decent word because was
Hmm.
invested in them leaving. I was invested in them getting to Terrace and
The
then
Fellowship of the Mist. Yeah.
in the Fellowship of the Mist and them getting the news from afar that Luthadel fell. And I don't feel like the sudden turnaround happened so quickly. There's a bit of whiplash, and I can't help ask myself, well, what was the point of any of that? And I understand going through it what all of the
Mm,
characters' motivations were that coalesced in them leaving in the first place, but they
mm.
just go back so quickly now. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that actually makes this turnaround still really good. I
Agreed.
think that yeah. So I think that saves
Th-
it. Like the
yeah,
character work that actually happens for it to
th-
turn around is great.
yeah, the thumping revelation, the mist thing, knowing that the mist comes earlier, farther away
Hmm.
from Luthadel, which again is a sign that the thumping is the well.
Hmm.
There's, I'm sorry, I don't mean to come off as like, "Ugh, I didn't like this chapter." I did. It's
Hmm.
it's noteworthy that there's a bit of whiplash on my end.
Yeah, I think so, and we've noted it. I think that you'll see how much we enjoyed the chapter when we get into it. So,
Oh yeah,
as usual, I think you should be used
spook.
to this by now. Where we're always like, "Oh my god!" And like, actually, it was a really good chapter.
Yes.
Mm. Spook, yes, you said spook.
Oh, you said really liked the chapter. I really liked Spook in this chapter. Poor Spook.
Yeah, I guess I liked it. I like he was a very good part of this chapter.
Yeah.
Shall we?
Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, That Darn Kitty.
Dorkus and I are both going into the story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment, we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way.
Hold on to your butts because this is Ascension Unleashed, a blind read through, and today we will be covering chapter 51.
Chapter 51.
AI Dorcas needs a bit of an upgrade.
Look, every so often I try to think of a way to make that intro unique in some way. Eh. And so I have
Will you make
made one final what?
Oh, I thought you were going to say no. So I've made one final random thing for the the intro. Sorry. Continue.
And so I have made one final gamble.
Okay. In context of all that you've revealed about Quan and what you think Quan has done and all of that, which I completely agree with, what does this mean?
Filler epigraph.
Oh, come on. No, and so I've taken one last gamble. One final gamble. I suppose he's taken a gamble on Alendi actually being the hero of ages. That could be it.
No, I
Because
assumed this was in
no.
reference to sending Rashek to assassinate Alendi.
Oh my god. Yeah. Oh, that's not filler, Dorcas. Jeez.
Well, what
Oh
new
yeah, you're
information do we have from it?
right. No, I think you're right. Mm, Final gamble. Mm. Why Rashek though? Oh my gosh! But hey, they're all. what's the name? They're all terrorist people. So I suppose he's like, yeah, this will be a good thing. But I think he should have taken a gamble on letting Alendi go to the Well of Ascension. That's what his gamble should have been,
I mean, it sounds
not
like he didn't want him to
stopping him.
succeed, though.
Yeah, he should have. What do you mean he didn't want him to succeed? It's something's bad's happening to the world. You kind of need it.
But in the last epigraph, he said something to the effect of, "My greatest fear is that he will do what he's supposed to do."
Why? Why must it? Yeah, you're right.
I have no
Okay,
doubt that if
correct.
Alendi reaches the Well of Ascension, he will take the power and then, in the name of the presumed greater good, will give it up.
And so I've made one final gamble. Yeah. Why is he upset about that? Does
I
he think that
don't
will end
know.
badly for the world? I hate this all.
I mean,
And love it.
it's a weird moot point, but if he doesn't believe that Alendi is the hero of ages, but he does what the hero of ages is supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
then people will think he's the hero of ages, except isn't
And
he
then
if
your
he
lie
does
wasn't
what
a
he's
lie.
supposed to do? I mean, maybe
Yeah.
there's some sort of like weird lost hatch button that you're supposed to click, and if you do it, it sets off
Yeah.
an electromagnetic explosion, and maybe only Quan knows about it or something. But I don't know. Let the guy do it, save the world,
Mm-hmm.
even if
That's what
he's
I
not.
thought.
Yeah, even if he's not the hero of ages,
We
but he
need
does.
someone.
Yeah, but he serves that function. What does it matter if the masses
Mm-hmm.
determine? Because I don't know that there's. I don't. People worshipped the Lord Ruler. They worshipped Rashek, and maybe Quan. I don't think Quan was necessarily afraid that Alendi would be worshipped. I feel like it's something a little bit deeper than that. Not quite that Alendi
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't know what to do with the worship if he were worshipped. I mean, he does go on about him being ruthless, but doesn't. I mean, we
Yeah,
saw
it
how
seems like if we
ruthless
weigh,
Rashek
yeah.
was.
But if we weigh up those two things, you're like, okay, end of the world versus Alendi going a little bit power hungry or whatever. Like, I think we can at least deal with Alendi going power hungry. We can't deal
Yeah.
with the end of the world. So yeah, I'm on this thing of like, I really am not understanding why insert previous epigraph here. Why is that his greatest fear? Because it should serve him. Because then it's like, look,
Hmm.
he was right. Wasn't lying. Nobody finds out he was lying. It was like, oh yeah, it's very convenient actually.
Yeah. I think we both have floated the idea that allomancy came with the mist. I think Sazed had theorized that at one point in the first book.
Mm.
So maybe Quan knew something, like everyone would become an allomancer if Alendi did what he was supposed to do, but Alendi didn't do what he was supposed to do. Therefore, and yet we have allomancers, so that can't be it. And I don't think Quan has mentioned allomancy at all yet, so I don't see a
Mm.
reason to presume that he would know about it. I don't know, Quan.
Get to the point, Quan.
Yes, please.
Tell
Explain
us
in
everything.
specific detail why he is not the hero of ages.
Yes. Why do you have to sit here and to give us your diary entry of it? Oh, I feel this and this and this about it.
Quan, man.
Anyway.
Anyway, the misty red light of morning was a thing that should not have existed. Mist died before daylight. Heat made it evaporate. Even locking it inside a closed room made it condense and disappear. It shouldn't have been able to withstand the light of the rising sun. Obviously, I think to all the times Vin noticed that the mist
Mm.
had been sticking around longer. I didn't yet associate it with the distance from Luthadel. I just assumed it was a natural progression of the problem getting worse.
Everywhere, yeah. And remember, they were coming earlier as well. So it was like earlier, like because they would come at night time. and that was it. But it was like, no, they came a lot earlier when, I don't know, in this book, essentially. Another thing I was actually thinking about is there something like symbolic or magic-y about that if it's in a closed room, like it doesn't go into a room? Or is it that literally just like fluid dynamics and heat dynamics? More of a mystical thing.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a supernatural element
Mm,
at play for why mist does not go
mm.
into rooms. Because I think they said at one point that fog does, but
Yeah.
mist doesn't.
Yeah, like I feel like there's more than just physics going
Yeah.
into that. Hopefully we find out one day.
Yet it did. The farther they'd gotten from Luthadel, the longer the mists lingered in the mornings. The change was slight. They were still only a few days' ride from the city. But Vin knew. She saw the difference. This morning, the mists seemed even stronger than she'd anticipated. They didn't even weaken as the sun came up. They obscured its light. Important to note, a few days. How many days to
Mm,
you is a few?
Uh, 3.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And in the
Mm.
previous chapter, they said that they had been gone for 4, which means Vin, in theory, is 1 day's worth of travel on her way back,
Mhm.
which means they have to
What?
withstand the Kolos siege for 2 days. Maybe a bit less, depending on how fast she can go.
Yeah, and then she's gonna be pure drug, and but hey, she's fine. She'll be cool. She'll be awesome. But yeah, just it's just showing that. So they're a few days ride, and they've traveled 4 days. So that's just showing how leisurely they've been as well. So it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, they didn't ride the full day, that sort of thing.
Yep,
Mist,
she thought.
deepness.
She was increasingly sure that she was right about it, though she couldn't know for certain. Still, it felt right to her for some reason. The deepness hadn't been some monster or tyrant, but a force more natural, and therefore more frightening. A creature could be killed. The mists, they were far more daunting. The deepness wouldn't oppress with priests, but use the people's own superstitious terror. It wouldn't be slaughter with armies, but with starvation. How did one fight something larger than a continent? A thing that couldn't feel anger, pain, hope, or mercy? I read that and I think to myself, hey, am I reading Alendi's journal? Where's the word sapient?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering, like, okay, it still feels like something sapient, though, according
Mm-hmm.
to Alendi. So you're saying it's not. You're saying it's just a force. It doesn't
Me?
feel things. No, Vin.
Vin. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Potential thought experiment.
Fun times.
Alendi, Quan's fear is that Alendi wasn't the hero of ages, but would have taken the power and given it up. You and I don't think that Vin is the hero of ages. Do
Hmm.
we both feel as if she would take the power and give it up?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so
It wouldn't
what's
be
wrong
easy.
with that?
Mm. What's
Why?
wrong with Vin giving up the power?
Yeah, that's the question. Because maybe there's a link there, and if we can figure out why Vin giving up the power. I mean, we're assuming she does the deed, and Alendi does
Mm.
the deed, and then they give up the power, rather than like they get to it and they're like, nope, never mind.
Yeah, because imagining if there was a nope, never mind moment for Vin, but presumably it would be she's got the choice between the people and Elend, and she chooses Elend. But I feel like she's come so far, she's developed past that now. So I feel like she would be in a better position to choose the people
Mm-hmm.
at the end of that. So what would be wrong with it? Maybe you are supposed to take the power and use it for good. I don't know. You're not supposed to give it up. I'm not
That's
understanding.
an
I
that's an
don't know enough
interesting
about.
thought, though.
Mm.
That is an interesting thought. Maybe Quan had some unique insight into the prophecy that suggests that the hero is supposed to take the power.
Mhm.
Like maybe he thought what Rashek did is what was supposed to happen. Again, we floated the possibility that Rashek had to do what he had to do because it was Vin, or whoever the hero of ages is, born a
Mhm.
1,000 years later. So Rashek had to
Yeah.
fill a role of putting off the deepness. I don't
Mhm.
know.
It all had to be that was my initial feeling, is that all of this had to happen in the order it happened so that we can have the real hero of ages.
Yeah. Anyway, interesting thoughts. Yet it was Vin's task to do just that. She sat quietly on a large boulder beside the knight's fire pit, her legs up, knees to her chest. Ellen still slept. Spook was out scouting. She didn't question her place any longer. Either she was mad or she was the hero of ages. I read that and I was like, what is the role of the announcer again?
What, to be mad or hero of ages? Well, I don't understand what you mean.
The announcer is
Oh,
supposed
it's a
to name
third
the
option.
hero of ages. I don't think the hero of
Mhm.
ages is supposed to name themselves or
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, we could just fill in what's it?
Sazed?
Starzed is, yeah, as the announcer, but he didn't really announce it. I don't know. Yeah,
Right.
it's all wacky. Great prophecy. It works so well. Mm.
But it's nice to know that she has made that decision for herself, I suppose.
Yeah, she's not sitting in this weird confusion. She's taken her place, and that's what we. Even if it is confused or misguided or whatever, at this point, it's like she needs to be confident in what she's doing, because if we don't have a confident Vin, we have her toying around with Zane, essentially. That's the kind of psyche we had when she hadn't made a decision.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm gearing up for book 3 to
Mhm.
be everyone thinks Vin is the hero of ages, but then she's not. I
Mhm.
know we've said that before, but I'm saying it now in specific comparison to Alendi.
Yeah.
Well, even I mean I do that regularly at this point, but it is my prediction, soft prediction for the next book.
Mhm.
That part's new. It was her task to defeat the mists,
Yet,
she thought, frowning.
shouldn't the thumpings be getting louder, not softer?
The longer they traveled, the weaker the thumping seemed. Was she too late? Was something happening at the well to dampen its power? Had someone else already taken it?
Yeah, so when I read that, I was like, hold up. Yeah, we're all going in the wrong direction. I can't make sense of that. That's
Mm-hmm.
not good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's not a good thing. So I guess I don't want them to land up keeping on going. I want them to turn back. The
Mm-hmm.
thumping is a really big deal to me. Like, that's another thing that I was like, Sazed, she can sense it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah,
the well of
mm,
ascension being at Luthadel, by the way, I
mhm.
think strongly indicates that atium, a connection to the missing atium, rather, presumably the atium being used to hold off the deepness by Rashek.
Mhm. Yeah. But there's also that idea of that, like, Marsh has been bringing it closer.
Oh yeah, there is that. Never
Mm,
mind.
yeah. Because remember, it was in Terrace. It felt like she had to go to the north for it, right? And then it's
Hmm.
like, no, actually, it's closer. So I think that your theory really does. There's more evidence for that one.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I do. Yeah, though I do still think Rashek was using the atium to hold off the
Yeah, me
deepness.
too.
But
Me too. I agree. We have to keep moving.
another person in her place might have asked why they had been chosen. Vin had known several men, both in Kammen's crew and in Ellen's government, who would complain every time they were given an assignment. Why me? They would ask. The insecure ones didn't think they were up to the task. The lazy ones wanted out of the work. Yep, I know those people. Hello, I am one of those people.
I can be either of those people depending on the day.
Yep. Vin didn't consider herself to be either self assured or self motivated. Still, she saw no point in asking why. Life had taught her that sometimes things simply happened. Often there hadn't been any specific reason for Reen to beat her, and reasons were weak comforts anyway. The reasons that Kelsier had needed to die were clear to her, but that didn't make her miss him any less.
I like that.
She's having good thoughts about Kelsier again.
Yeah, she is. She's like, that just a normal good thought of I miss him. That's good. We need that. But yeah, just the practicality of Vin was just like, yeah, cool. I know the reasons, but I still have feelings about that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to make them go away. So cool. She can understand the purpose of reasons, the reason that you get reason, and then she's like, cool. Emotions are also a thing. Which I think is as rational as you can get. Really, is that you acknowledge that you have rationality and emotion.
Yeah. She had a job to do. The fact that she didn't understand it didn't stop her from acknowledging that she had to try to accomplish it. She simply hoped that she'd know what to do when the time came. Though the thumping was weaker, it was still there. It drew her forward, to the Well of Ascension. She could also feel the lesser vibration of the mist spirit. It never disappeared until the mists themselves did. It had been there all morning, standing behind her. Scary, don't trust it.
But no,
Or
she's kind of gotten so used to it, really.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem to be trying to harm her.
Yeah, or yeah, it hasn't been doing anything. It's just been hanging around. And so
Yeah,
it's been for a long time. She's gotten so used to it. She has kind of trusted it in a way where it's just like, it's there.
yeah. As long as it doesn't bother me, I guess I don't need to bother it.
Yeah, it's just watching me. It's cool. And if it's not going to talk to me, it's fine. Well, I'll speak to it. Let's see. So she goes, do you know the secret to this all?
She asked quietly, turning toward the spirit in the reddish mists.
Do you have
The allomantic pulse of the mist spirit was coming from directly inside the tent she shared with Elend. Vin jumped off the rock, landing on the frosted ground and scrambling to the tent. She threw open the flaps. Ellen slept inside, head barely visible as it poked out of the blankets. Mist filled the small tent, swirling, twisting, and that was odd enough. Mist didn't usually enter tents. It's getting stronger, is what I thought. Also,
Mm-hmm.
Ellen's in danger.
Yeah, there's the mystical thing of like it doesn't enter a tent. Like you would think physically, like maybe it's easier for a tent that they're more porous, I suppose. So it would behave differently. But like no, a tent is a dwelling place, so the mist doesn't go in there. Obviously,
Yep.
this is now an exception because mist spirit.
Also, I'll say, based off of what we got from Alendi's logbook, I imagine getting stabbed by the Mist Spirit is similar to Frodo getting stabbed by the Nazgul.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
Considering, yeah, I agree. I also get that feeling from when Vin is ever touched by it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I see the same thing.
And there, in the middle of the mists, was the spirit standing directly over Elend. It wasn't even really there. It was merely an outline in the mists, a repeating pattern caused by chaotic movements, and yet it was real. She could feel it, and she could see it. See it as it looked up, meeting her gaze with invisible eyes. Hateful eyes. And I was out of my seat at that point, because it's like, okay, we've got some character to the thing, and it
Yes.
is hateful. What does
Yeah,
that mean?
it's got the lack of eyes are eyes. You know what I'm saying? Invisible eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just creepy as all hell. But we had the mists being this thing that doesn't feel anything and whatever. But the mist spirit here has hate for eyes. Like we had it doesn't feel anything. It doesn't feel mercy. Da da da. But it's like this thing over here has a lot of emotion. It seems like.
Mm-hmm.
So a- and it's not just separate to the mist. It's like what is it? The sapience of the mist in one
Mm.
form. And get away from Ireland. Like, how do you fight it? You blow it away? Like,
That's the question, though, isn't it? I don't know. It's invisible. Try to shoot a coin at it. See what happens.
yeah. See what happens. But yeah, she should have seen what happens. I suppose she didn't fight it because she didn't want to anger it or whatever. She's like, if it leaves me alone, I'll leave it. But like, yeah, this is a big problem now, Vin. Like, you can't just let this thing hang around. We need to figure out how to fight it or whatever. And why is it going after Ellen?
So that is the next point that I was going to bring up. I made an association between this creature and God in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that apparently God didn't want Zane to kill Vin. And here
Mm-hmm.
we've got this creature, albeit hateful eyes, going
Mm-hmm.
after Elend instead of Vin. One that could potentially mean that Elend is perhaps the hero of ages and not
Mm-hmm.
Vin, if Elend is the
Which
target of the hateful creature. But I didn't get
mm,
animosity from God about not wanting to kill Vin. I didn't get some sort of there are rules and we can't
mhm,
interfere in this way type
mhm.
thing from the God exchange with Zane, which was very short. So I the association is there. I don't know how full that is.
So yeah, the association between the god voice and the mist spirit.
Yeah.
Because the big reveal with Zane was it's not just the voice in his head. It's not a Reen voice. It's actually it's like you weren't mad the whole time. Like it's a bit of a reveal at the end there. It's like ha ha ha, I was in here.
Hmm.
And I don't know, maybe now that it's out of Zane, it's stronger in the mist spirit. Who knows? I don't know. But I do agree they are connected.
There's a part of me that is wondering if all of these characters are pawns in a grander game that
That
the
would be
mists
very
that
yeah,
God
the
and the
mist.
mist spirit are
Mm,
playing.
yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah. It raised an insubstantial arm, and Vin saw something flash. She reacted immediately, whipping out a dagger, bursting into the tent and swinging. Her blow met something tangible in the mist spirit's hand. A metallic sound rang in the calm air, and Vin felt a powerful, numbing chill in her arm. The hairs across her entire body prickled, and then it disappeared, fading away like the ringing of its somehow substantial blade. Vin blinked, then turned to look through the blowing tent flap. The mists outside were gone. Day had finally won. So we do know now
That's
what
interesting.
happens when you try to stab it,
Mhm.
sort
Well,
of.
she didn't stab it, she hit its blade. So the blade was
Hmm.
substantial, so she hit the blade. I don't know if she takes the dagger and, like, hits the mist body, what happens? Does it go through it like the mist like the gold image, you know? Not the
Good
gold
point.
image, the yeah, malatium or whatever it is. Uh, yeah, I don't know, but definitely the blade. Because remember, I mean, we know that the one guy got
Stabbed
killed by the
Fennec.
the yeah yeah
Mhm.
Fedek got properly stabbed, but the thing is, he didn't die immediately, did he?
No, he became
He's
sort
not
of
in the same
disturbed.
yeah, which reminds us of like
The
Frodo and like
Nazgul.
basic becoming a wraith.
Mhm.
Essentially, he takes you over. Is that what happened to Zane? No, okay. I'm going through all the possibilities here. I'm starting
Mhm.
to try and develop that muscle of write the story, but let's not do that. Let's let Dorcas do that. Also, yeah. So we've got the idea of the very very coldness that the hairs across her entire body pricked and things like that. So it's like being near it is about ice.
Yeah.
So maybe you basically yeah, you become probably very very cold and wraith like if you are stabbed by it. But then again, I don't know what happens to you if you stab it. If you stab it, does it like area damage you as well? You know, because if you
Right.
touch it at all. So yeah, but then also it's instantly gone.
Yeah, and
Like this, all the mist is gone. It doesn't just blow away or whatever. It's just poof, gone.
right. And so that brings me to my next point on it, which is the timing of the whole event. Why would it wait until the last minute to make its attempt? Why would it make its attempt when Vin is awake? Especially since she
Mm-hmm.
has even said she's been sleeping more lately. There's mystery there. And did Day
Yes.
finally win out? Because we're already in the day. So
Mm-hmm.
and the mist is staying longer. So did Day win out because she hit the knife, or did the knife go away because Day won out?
Mm. Ooh, I don't know.
Hmm. Day had finally won. It didn't seem to have many victories remaining. Finn? Ellen asked, yawning and stirring. Vin calmed her breathing. The spirit had gone. The daylight meant safety, for now.
Once it was the nights that I found safe. Once it was the nights that I found safe. Kelsier gave them to me.
What's wrong? Elend asked. How could someone, even a nobleman, be so slow to rise, so unconcerned about the vulnerability he displayed while sleeping? She sheathed her
That was
dagger.
sorry. That was great. Just like we're in a very tense situation, but then just her kind of blunt assessment of him there really was so endearing, and I just love Vin.
Yeah, it was very Vin and like totally unknowing Elend. She sheathed her dagger.
What can I tell him? How can I protect him from something I can barely see?
She needed to think.
It was nothing. Just me being jumpy again.
Elend rolled over, sighing contentedly. Is Spook doing his morning scout?
Yes.
Wake me up when he gets back. Vin nodded, but he probably couldn't see her. She knelt looking at him as the sun rose behind her. She'd given herself to him, not just her body, and not just her heart. She'd abandoned her rationalizations, given away her reservations, all for him. She could no longer afford to think that she wasn't worthy of him, no longer give herself the false comfort of believing they couldn't ever be together. She'd never trusted anyone this much. Not Kelsier, not Sazed, not Reen. Elend had everything. That knowledge made her tremble inside. If she lost him, she would lose herself. So,
I
sweet.
appreciated this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
It's not just sweet, it's profound as well. And it's
Mm-hmm.
and it's good
The
Vin
growth.
being aware of herself.
Yeah.
Yes. Because we want Vin to have these thoughts about something. We need her to react to process these things and say, "This is where I'm at," and I appreciate her doing that. And it is quite a scary thing to just give up on harping on about I'm not worthy, and actually just being with the person. It's actually that's a trust that you have, and it is a leap that you take, and you have to kind of get over it. That's it, and I'm glad that she is experiencing that. She's conscious of that. It it wouldn't be Vin otherwise, because she's a perceptive person.
Yeah. Agreed. If she lost him, she would lose herself.
I mustn't think about that.
She told herself, rising. She left the tent quietly, closing the flaps behind her. In the distance, shadows moved. Spook appeared a moment later.
Just before we get there, but
Mm-hmm.
going into this, she would lose herself if she lost him. So in the beginning of this chapter, I said I think she would be in the space to give up Elend for the rest of the world. But this doesn't make this seems like, would she? Maybe she would, but then she would lose herself in reaction to that. Do you know what I'm saying? So say she goes to Well of Ascension, she's the hero of ages. She's got to give up Elend to save the world, and she makes the tough decision that, yeah, okay, she has to give him up because Elend would do that. He would want her to do it, and that's why she would do it. But then she would lose herself. She would
Yeah.
just be gone, really, after that, and then we go on her journey with her.
Yeah.
Or do you think she would just not give up Elend? This is what it's the message that Sanderson is giving us here, is that she wouldn't. If she is the hero of ages, or if she thinks she is, and she goes to the Well of Ascension and has to choose, she will not give it up.
Would
She's
she
too
wish
focused
for
on him.
Elend to come back to
Yeah.
life?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I don't think she's the hero of ages, so
So it
it's a
doesn't
little
matter.
bit moot. I I don't know. Sanderson likes to write characters that make good decisions. The question will be, do
That's
I want Elend back, or do I
Mm.
want to do what Elend would want me to do in this moment?
Yeah. That's what I think Vin would probably. She knows she would have to do what Ellen wants. It would be a kind of the Last of Us thing, where it's like she made this choice for him, when you know that he would have said, no, it's about saving. I want to save everyone.
Joel did nothing wrong, despite what season 2 and the sequel game want you to believe. Someone's definitely back there. Not spirits, Vin. A camp of 5 men. Vin frowned.
Following us.
They must be,
Strapped scouts.
she thought.
We'll let Ellen decide what to do about them.
Spook shrugged, walking over to sit on her rock. You going to wake him?
Let him sleep a little longer.
Spook shrugged again. He watched as she walked over to the fire pit and unwrapped the wood they'd covered the night before, then began to build a fire. You've changed, Vin, Spook said. She continued to work.
Everyone changes. I'm not a thief anymore, and I have friends to support me.
I don't mean that. I mean recently. This last week. You're different than you were.
Different how?
I don't know. You don't seem as frightened all the time. Vin considered that.
I've made some decisions about who I am and who I will be, about what I want.
She worked quietly for a moment and finally got a spark to catch.
I'm tired of putting up with foolishness, other people's foolishness, and my own. I've decided to act rather than second guess. Perhaps it's a more immature way of looking at things, but it feels right for now.
It's not immature. Vin smiled, looking up at him. 16 and hardly grown into his body, he was the same age that she'd been when Kelsier had recruited her. He was squinting against the light, even though the sun was low.
Lower your tin. No need to keep it on that strong.
Interesting. Mine says reduce your tin.
Mine says lower.
Neat. But this is the first line and indication that Spook is really not overcompensating, but like really trying to stretch the limits of what he can handle for the sake of being useful.
Yeah, and why is he trying to be so useful?
Mm-hmm.
Why does he feel so guilty about not being able to function?
Yep. Spook shrugged. She could see the uncertainty in him. He wanted so badly to be useful. She knew that feeling.
Makes me think back to the first book. That's all she wanted to do when she was part of the crew.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Spook?
She said, turning to gather the breakfast supplies, broth and meal cakes again.
How have you been lately?
He shrugged yet again.
I'd almost forgotten what it was like to try and have a conversation with a teenage boy.
She thought, smiling. Well, how many conversations have you tried to have with him, Vin?
Yeah, Vin.
Where you aren't being super mean to him.
Where you aren't just giving him crap and, just, what, razzing him? Is that a word?
Something like that.
Spook,
she said, testing out the name.
What do you think of that nickname anyway? I remember when everyone called you by your real name.
Lestaborns. Vin had tried to spell it once. She'd gotten about 5 letters in. Kelsier gave me my name, Spook said, as if that were reason enough to keep it. And perhaps it was. Vin saw the look in Spook's eyes when he mentioned Kelsier. Clubs might be Spook's uncle, but Kelsier had been the one he looked up to. Of course, they all had looked up to Kelsier. Sweet and accurate, good read on Spook there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's exactly how it was.
If a god gives you a name, you take that name.
Yeah. Even if it's Spook.
I wish I were powerful, Vin, Spook said quietly, arms folded on his knees as he sat on the rock. Like you.
You have your own skills.
Tin? Almost worthless. If I were Mistborn, I could do great things. Be someone important.
Being important isn't all that wonderful, Spook,
Vin said, listening to the thumping in her head.
Most of the time, it's just annoying.
Spook shook his head. If I were Mistborn, I could save people. Help people who need it. I could stop people from dying. But I'm just Spook. Weak. A coward. Vin looked at him, frowning, but his head was bowed, and he wouldn't meet her eyes.
What was that about?
She wondered. Oh, Spook knows. And I know Spook knows.
Yes, when we got to that part, I was like, oh, okay, Spook knows. Spook's just... And yeah, it could be Spook knowing that because he was listening in, or Spook knowing because he was told.
Or just because he's potentially smart.
Yes, that too.
Like, he can put 2 and 2 together. For some reason, Ellen and Vin who are taking a leisurely pace, think that they're going to make it to Terrace in time to possibly send back reinforcements or something.
True.
I don't
True.
know. Spook is probably the only one here thinking they're not getting out of this.
Uh-huh. But
Uh,
yeah, we do find out how it was that he knows. But
yeah.
at this point where I was is okay. So he might have been listening in, and that's why he knows. So I didn't give him that much
Credit.
because if that much credit, because if he had the hunch, right,
Mm-hmm.
he wouldn't feel it would be like he would maybe want to fool himself and say no, I'm wrong. He would want to believe that they were telling him the truth. Him having confirmation is something that is worth that guilt. That's probably why I didn't even go to him putting it together, because I needed him to know,
Well,
not just assume.
yeah, but ultimately he does put it together. I didn't, unless I'm totally blanking on the specifics of the conversation, I didn't get the sense Club outright told him. I think Club's intimated to him and
Mm-hmm.
Spook put it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the way that Club said goodbye and whatever. I guess, yeah. But he had, that was confirmation enough, and I think that's what he has to feel guilty about, because he didn't bring those concerns to the other two. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
say that. He let it happen. He knows he's being a coward. We'll get into it obviously when he explains himself a little. Well, when we
Yeah.
get one more word, one more sentence.
Yeah. Sazed used a bit of strength to help him take the steps 3 at a time. He burst out of the stairwell right behind Tindwyl, the two of them joining the remaining members of the crew on the wall top. The drums still sounded over the city. Each had a different rhythm. The mixing beats echoed chaotically from building and alleyways. The northern horizon seemed bare without Straff's army. If only that same emptiness had extended to the northeast, where the Kolos camp seemed in turmoil. And I'm like, oh, it's on! It's on! Can anyone make out what's going on? Breeze asked. Ham shook his head. Too far. One of my scouts is a Tinai, Club said, hobbling over. He raised the alarm. Said the Kolosh were fighting. My good man, Breeze said. Aren't the foul creatures always fighting? More than usual. Massive brawl. Sazed felt a swift glimmer of hope. They're fighting? Perhaps they will kill each other. Clubs eyed him with one of those looks. Read one of your books, Terishman. What do they say about Kolosh emotions? They only have 2, boredom and rage, but...
This is how they always begin battle,
Tindwyl said quietly.
They start to fight amongst themselves, enraging more and more of their members, and then...
She trailed off, and Sazed saw it. The dark smudge to the east growing lighter, dispersing, resolving into individual members, charging the city. I actually really liked that they start fighting each other as a method to rile them all up, considering they only have 2 emotions. I thought that was a neat world building element, cultural element thing.
Adds to how crazy they are, really. That they are just that wild. That it's like, that's what happens. That's just a normal thing that they do. That they'll lose. You would think, oh, that's a great advantage. A lot of them died before they go and attack. But it's like, but they are so barbaric that it's actually ferocious. Yes, that it doesn't matter that you lose. Every Kolos battle starts with lots of Kolos dying, and Kolos are still absolute savages and kill everything. Remember when I thought they were a big monster because they just destroy everything in their path? That's basically it. So, well, yeah. And also the cinematic description there, where it's like it's dust really, and then it's like, oh, there's individual members and you can just see them. Oh god, it's going down.
Yep. Bloody hell! Club swore, then quickly began to hobble down the steps. Messengers, away! Archers, to the wall! Secure the river grates! Battalions, take position! Get ready to fight! Do you want those things breaking in here and getting at your children? Club's going at it.
Well, yeah, he's... I mean, the fact that he even said bloody hell, that also was kind of like, whoa, okay. That's the same as Clubs really yelling, holy shit! You know? Yeah.
Chaos followed. Men began to dash in all directions. Soldiers scrambled up the stairwells, clogging the way down, keeping the crew from moving. It's happening, Sawshead thought numbly. Once the stairwells are open, Doxson said quietly, I want each of you to go to your battalion. Tindwyl, you have Tingate in the north by Keep Venture. I might need your advice, but for now, stay with those boys. They'll listen to you. They respect terracemen. Breeze, you have one of your soothers in each of battalions 4 through 12? Breeze nodded. They aren't much, though. Just have them keep those boys fighting, Doxson said. Don't let our men break. 1,000 men are far too many for one soother to handle, my friend. Have them do the best they can. You and Ham take Pewtergate and Zinkgate. Looks like the Kolos are going to hit here first. Clubs should bring in reinforcements. The two men nodded. Then Doxson looked at Sawshead. You know where to go? Yes, I think so, Sawshead said, gripping the wall. In the air, flakes of ash began to fall. Go then, Doxson said as one final squad of archers made its way out of the stairwell.
Ash fell from the sky. We have that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's happening. Doxson, yay!
Yes.
I think we're getting that, like, leaning on Doxson. Like, look how strong Doxson is, everybody. Remember that? Remember how good that is? Thank goodness
My
we have
king.
him. Yes. His king. Like, I told you I'd vote for him. So, President Doxson. Yeah.
It's time to get to work.
Yeah,
Buckle up.
and Breeze is like, it's not gonna work. It's like, hey, no, get to work. That's it. It's happening. And the whole idea of allomancers, emotional allomancers in battle, is pretty cool. That's like having
Yeah.
basically drugs, super soldiers. So the thing is, I was thinking of, like, the tactics of how you would do that. You would have to figure out the groups, like who is a leader in small subgroups, like who do other people feed off, so that you can keep that person together, so that their companions feed off of him. You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
very cool. I hope we get a POV of an Alamancer or of Breeze trying to help people in battle, because that's a cool. It's a support role, guys. It's, oh god, Mistborn game would be cool.
Yeah.
You have a part of the game where you have to play as Breeze at the battle, and there's a certain game mechanic that you have to hit certain people with allomantic waves and stuff. Yeah, very cool.
It would be so fun. A neat mechanic.
Mm.
My Lord Venture! Straff turned. With stimulants, he was able to remain strong enough to stay atop his saddle, though he wouldn't have dared to fight. Of course, he wouldn't have fought in any case. That wasn't his way. One brought armies to do such things. Now, lucky you.
Yeah, it makes me think of, what's the name of Troy, where Achilles is like, yo, you're not the one that's fighting the war. You bring your soldiers around, and you get all the glory. Oh, sorry, I just enjoyed Troy. I watched it a couple weeks ago, and I'm still
The one with
enjoying it.
Brad Pitt?
Yeah.
It's so funny you say that. I've literally been meaning to rewatch it this entire past week, and I don't know why.
And maybe I think I had mentioned it before as well, because
You must have.
yes, it was weeks before as well. It's just reminding me. It really, you know what? For me, it stood up. It really did. It was cool. Achilles
Excellent.
is awesome.
I kind of want to rewatch it before I read the Aeneid.
Yeah.
Anyway, he turned his animal as the messenger approached. The man puffed, putting hands on knees as he stopped beside Straff's mount, bits of ash swirling on the ground at his feet. My lord, the man asked, the Kolos army has attacked Luthadel. Exactly as you said, Zane, Straff thought in wonder. The Kolos attacking? Lord Yanarl asked, moving his horse up beside Straff's. The handsome lord frowned, then eyed Straff. You expected this, my lord? Of course, Straff said, smiling. Yanarl looked impressed. Pass an order to the men, Yanarl. I want this column turned back toward Luthadel.
Okay, hold up. You expected this, my lord. 2 lines earlier. Okay. Thought with wonder. Like, so I don't know how. Yes, you hoped for it, okay, but you were wondering, how true is it? We don't know.
I mean, my question is, how did anyone not expect it?
Yeah.
If
Why was
all the
this,
armies
like, other
leave,
people? Yeah.
Process of elimination. Who else are the Kolos going to attack?
Yeah. I mean, didn't clubs and all of them think that through and found it? So, look, I guess we're just suspension of disbelief. I don't know. Yeah.
There's a mechanical nature to this segment, just
Mm.
to let us, the audience, know Straff is
They're on
aware
their
and
weapon.
he's turning back. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can be there in an hour, my lord, Yunarl said. No, let's take our time. We wouldn't want to overwork our troops, would we? Yunarl smiled. Of course not, my lord.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, that was another extra thing that we had to we listen, they're not in a rush. So got to keep that in mind when it comes to Vin's arrival. When will Vin's arrival come? How far are they? They're like, yeah, the whole army's are out of the horizon. They are gone as far as Luthadel is concerned. So
Yep.
they've got a ways to go.
Yep.
They're saying we can be there in an hour, so they can chill. They can do lunges and stuff on the way there, like stretches and whatever.
They're not going back to rescue. They're going to play
Mm.
cleanup crew.
Yeah, which I'm like, cool, but these are Kolos boys. It's not going to be
Yeah.
fun. Whatever.
I mean, to Straff's credit, it's probably for the best. Let the Kolos
Mhm.
tire themselves out as best they can, or as
Mhm.
best you can hope them
Yeah.
to.
True. Yeah.
And obviously Straff doesn't owe anything to Luthadel. So if we take Straff's position and what's best for Straff,
Mhm.
smart decision.
Absolutely.
Arrows seemed to have little effect on the Kolos. Sazed stood, transfixed and appalled atop his gate's watchtower. He wasn't officially in charge of the men, so he didn't have any orders to give. He simply stayed with the scouts and messengers, waiting to see whether he was needed. That left him plenty of time to watch the horror unfolding. The Kolos weren't charging his section of the wall yet, thankfully, and his men stood watching tensely as the creatures barreled toward Tin Gate and Pewter Gate in the distance. Even from far away, the tower letting him look over a section of the city to where Tin Gate lay, Sazed could see the Kolos running straight through hailstorms of arrows. Some of the smaller ones appeared to fall dead or wounded, but most continued to charge. Men murmured on the tower near them. So already it's scary.
Yeah. It's kind of like first of all, we are scared. Cool, but now you see just how formidable the enemy is. You kind of just everything will be saying just run. We can't do this. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
can you imagine sitting there? You're going arrows after arrow after arrow after arrow, and this thing just keeps running towards you.
We aren't ready for this, Sazed thought. Even with months to plan and anticipate, we aren't ready. This is what we get being ruled over by God for 1,000 years. 1,000 years of peace. Tyrannical peace, but peace nonetheless. We don't have generals. We have men who know how to order a bath drawn. We don't have tacticians. We have bureaucrats. We don't have warriors. We have boys with sticks. Good summation there, Sazed.
Yeah, it seems like he's a little bit more towards the realistic view of the nobleman than he was in the previous chapter, where he was like, "Oh, they know they used to command." It's like, yeah, well, in this chapter, he's like, "Yeah, they know how to command a bath is drawn." So he's realizing just how badly this is. There's no tactics and everything. And I'm when we go
Yeah.
more into the way this battle looks, I'm like, guys, there's some stuff you could have done. You got pebbles. You're throwing rocks.
Oil.
That's
Can you
it.
make oil?
Yeah, like I
Pitch.
mean, I suppose yeah, all of that stuff that we are thinking about. I suppose they had long enough time to come up with it, but yeah, we don't have any of
Also,
it.
as you called out the know how to order a bath drawn line.
Hmm.
Sansa, you having any different thoughts now about
Hmm.
Dockson's course of action? Hmm?
Yep.
Hmm?
Yeah.
No?
No, but yeah, it just shows how seeing it changes his perspective and changes his tune.
Yeah.
Seeing how horrible it is.
Yep. Even as he watched the oncoming doom, his scholarly mind was analytical. Tapping sight, he could see that many of the distant creatures, especially the larger ones, carried small uprooted trees. They were ready, in their own way, to break into the city. The trees wouldn't be as effective as real battering rams, but then the city gates weren't built to withstand a real battering in the first place. And then I was thinking about what you had said about them being too primitive for makeshift ladders.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yep,
Yeah,
that's a good solution.
yeah. Oh, I don't know. They didn't. They can't put stuff together to make a ladder. Yeah, the ramming seems very on brand for them. They're just not into stuff. And okay, cool. I don't know how to make the best tool for it, but you know what? Tree, yeah, that works. And also just they're lovely. That they're able to just like I know you can get a really small tree and lift it, but they're just running with trees in their
Mm-hmm.
hands. They're oh god, they're formidable.
Those Kolos are smarter than we give them credit for. They can recognize the abstract value of coins, so they have no economy. They can see that they'll need tools to break down our doors, so they don't know how to make those tools. Is it that they don't know how, or are they too disinterested if they only have apathy and anger?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're
There's no
just yeah.
curiosity there.
Yeah, if there was anyone directing them to do certain things, maybe it could have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that also gives you this gives you a little bit of a clue in where we're at to see that okay, well, either the person who's leading them, the human, has no control over them, so can't give them tools or make them make tools to be more effective, or there is no one leading them.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Good point. The first Kolos wave reached the wall. Men began to toss down rocks and other items. Sazed's own section had similar piles, one by the gate arch beside which he stood, but arrows had almost no effect. What good would a few rocks do? Kolos clumped around the base of the wall like the water of a dammed up river. Distant thumps sounded as the creatures began to beat against the gates. "Battalion 16!" a messenger called from below, riding up to Sazed's gate. "Lord Q! Here!" a man called from the wall top beside Sazed's tower. "Pewtergate needs reinforcements immediately! Lord Penrod commands you to bring 6 companies and follow me!" Lord Kuel began to give the orders. 6 companies, Sazed thought. 600 of our 1,000. Club's words from earlier returned to him. 20,000 men might seem like a lot, until one saw how thinly they had to be stretched. Okay, Sazed has control, essentially. Not
Mm-hmm.
really control, but is responsible for
400.
400 men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, that just like that, they just go. This Lord Cooley gave the orders, and what Kuel, sorry, gave the orders and things like that. I, I'm like, wait, so I said keep them there, like that sort of thing. But no, they're being ordered there. That's it. He's just got to deal with whatever comes now.
Yeah. Also, it's probably Cooley, but I didn't want to re-yell the line.
No, I don't know. I prefer Kuel because Cooley just is weird.
Yeah. The 6 companies marched away, leaving the courtyard before Sazed's gate disturbingly empty. The 400 remaining men, 300 in the courtyard, 100 on the wall, shuffled quietly. Sazed closed his eyes and tapped his hearing tin mind. He could hear wood beating on wood, screams, human screams. He released the tin mind quickly, then tapped eyesight again, leaning out and looking toward the section of the wall where the battle was being fought. The Kolos were throwing back the fallen rocks, and they were far more accurate than the defenders. Oof!
Yeah.
Imagine the very rocks you throw at them being thrown back at you.
Yeah,
That's tough.
missiles. Yeah, and they're
Mm-hmm.
being thrown back at you. Okay, so that's pretty high as well. But they're being thrown more accurately. They're freaking bullets. Yeah. And that just also makes you think of the size of the rocks. It's like, oh, that's as big as you guys wanted, huh? You didn't think of a huge boulder or anything like that? No? Okay. I guess
Where
I
would they
guess
have gotten a huge boulder, though?
I don't know. They break down a bit of stuff. I don't know. Shut up, Dorkus. I want them to be more prepared. Okay, I want to headcanon a big boulder making its way up there, or a big chunk of wall, like blowing up the walls on top of them, or something like that. I don't
They
know. Yeah.
need to use Total War cheese strats.
Yes.
You
I
have
don't
no
know.
idea what I mean.
No, I'm helping you with the reference by saying yes.
Just cheese them. You know what cheesing is, right?
No, melted cheese is basically it's like no?
Cheesing is when you basically exploit the rules of a game to fun
Mhm.
results. Like
Mm.
you, oh gosh, why can't I think? Like if you min max a character so
Okay.
that like the
Okay.
things you're good at, you are
Mhm.
insanely good at. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Sazed jumped as he saw a young soldier's face crushed, his body thrown back off the wall top by the rock's force. Sazed released his tin mind, breathing quickly. Be firm, men! Called one of the soldiers on the wall. He was barely a youth, a nobleman, but he couldn't be more than 16. Of course, a lot of the men in the army were that age. Stand firm! The young commander repeated. His voice sounded uncertain, and it trailed off as he noticed something in the distance. Sazed turned, following the man's gaze. The Kolos had gotten tired of standing around, piling up at a single gate. They were moving to surround the city, large groups of them breaking up, fording the river channel toward other gates. Gates like Sazed's.
No,
Oh
so
no.
dead. Mhm. But yeah, you see how they don't have a strategy of like, okay, cool, get this gate, get that gate. They literally just got bored standing around there. They're like, oh, this is taking too long. So they that's the only reason they're
Mm-hmm.
going to other gates.
Look, hey, if it's thinning their numbers, maybe there's hope.
Mm.
No, there's no hope. It's
Seems
going to
like
get
yeah,
worse.
yeah, it's gonna get worse. I'm not hearing about anyone killing a Kolos. Yeah.
Yeah, except a few of the smaller ones via arrow,
Mhm.
but yeah.
Yeah, like a rock or so. But like, yeah, you're getting smashed to death by those rocks. Oh.
It's going to be interesting if Vin gets back and the city has indeed fallen
Mm,
and the crew are essentially all in hiding and Straff is there and Straff is doing his stuff and Vin, has to ultimately sneak into the city to find the Well of Ascension. That
mm.
would be an interesting and not unrealistic pathway forward, I think.
Stealth Vin, yeah. It would make more sense. She would have to make the decision to not go in there guns blazing because she's
Yeah,
like, no,
she
I've
would
got
have
to
to
find the Well of
restrain
Ascension.
herself.
Yeah, yeah.
Vin landed directly in the middle of the camp. She tossed a handful of pewter dust into the fire pit, then pushed blowing coals, soot, and smoke across a pair of surprised guards who had been fixing breakfast. She reached out and pulled out the stakes of the 3 small tents. All 3 collapsed. One was unoccupied, but cries came from the other 2. The canvas outlined struggling, confused figures, one inside the larger tent, 2 inside the smaller one. The guards scrambled back, raising their arms to protect their eyes from the soot and sparks, their hands reaching for swords. Vin raised a fist toward them, and as they blinked, their eyes clear, she let a single coin drop to the ground. The guards froze, then took their hands off their swords. Vin eyed the tent. The person in charge would be inside the larger one, and he was the man she would need to deal with. Probably one of Straff's captains, though the guards didn't wear Venture heraldry. Perhaps and let's talk for a bit before the reveal. I feel like if they were Straff's men, that would have
Mm.
been Vin would have had to have gone in a little bit more cautious.
That they would be a lot more alert. Is that what you're saying?
Possibly, yeah.
Mm. If they were, but I guess she gauged it well. She was ready for whatever they were going to do.
Yeah. It's basically my way of saying Straff's men are probably more competent than who
Yeah.
it does end up being.
Yes, exactly. I didn't have any. I remember distinctly. I remember not thinking about who this is going to be. I was just
Interesting.
busy I was just busy enjoying it. And and then when it did happen, I was like, oh yeah, of course. So I kind of had the expectation subconsciously. I was too busy just enjoying Vin and the image of the tents and things like that. I don't know. I just know that I wasn't busy thinking, who is this? I was more in the experience.
Hmm. I don't remember having any specific thought, and I remember being surprised that it was Jostas. But I also remember thinking pretty quickly, oh well, yeah, that makes sense
That makes
actually.
sense. Yeah, yeah.
Justes Lacalle poked his head out of his tent, cursing as he extricated himself from the canvas. He'd changed much in the year since Vin had last seen him, though there had been hints of what the man would become. His thin figure had become spindly, his balding head had fulfilled its promise, yet how had his face come to look so haggard, so old? He was Elend's age. So it's Justes, and as we said, it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And yes, his aging makes sense as well.
Vin
Years
and
with Kolos, I
Kolos.
think. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Justes, Elend said, stepping out of his hiding place in the forest. He walked into the clearing, Spook at his side. Why are you here? And I will say I did wonder around this moment, ooh, are we going to get Gollum? Smeagol?
Smeagol? Really?
I'm
Why? Cause
of Justes.
what? Like he's looking for the Atium,
No,
or what are you
just
talking about?
more like, are we going to get another member of the Fellowship of the Mist who
Oh,
carries a lot of risk to him being there?
oh, oh, okay, yeah. I didn't have any of that. I was just like, oh, it's Justice. Now what? I didn't have any expectations.
Gotcha. Yeah, I will say I completely did not expect what happens to Justes.
That
That was completely by surprise to me.
was great.
Why are you here? Justus managed to stand as his other two soldiers cut their way out of their tent. He waved them down. Al, I didn't know where else to go. My scouts said that you were fleeing, and it seemed like a good idea. Wherever you're going, I want to go with you. We can hide there, maybe. We can. Justus! Ellen snapped, striding forward to stand beside Vin. Where are your Kolos? Did you send them away? I tried, Justus said, looking down. I don't believe you.
Yeah, this is very important. Did he lose control of them and therefore need to run? No, it seems like he did abandon them when he
Yeah.
saw that that and that makes it so bad that he saw, oh, Ellen's running, oh cool, I'll run. You are leaving them. They didn't rebel and then you got out, which would have
Yep.
painted you in a little bit of a better light. You still brought them here, you're still an idiot, but you know, I would have had a little bit more sympathy. But the fact that you're like, oh, you know what, I should just leave these savages, it'll
Mm-hmm.
be fine because I'll save my ass. Ugh.
Yep. I tried. They wouldn't go. Not once they'd seen Luthadel. And then. What? Ellen demanded. A fire. In our supply carts. Vin frowned. Your supply carts? The carts where you carried your wooden coins? Yes. Lord Ruler, man! And you just left them there? Without leadership? Outside our home? They would have killed me, Al! They were beginning to fight so much, to demand more coins, to demand we attack the city. If I'd stayed, they'd have slaughtered me. They're beasts, beasts that only barely have the shape of man. And you left. You abandoned Luthadel to them. You abandoned it too, Justice said. He walked forward, hands pleading as he approached Ellen. And Justice said that, and I had
Mm,
a moment of, yep, that is what
yep,
it looks like, Ellen.
yep. It is what it looks like, and it does not acquit justice. Don't worry.
No, but I
But
don't blame him for
mhm,
characterizing it that way.
yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah, exactly. It's not, oh, he's going to go and save people. No, it looks like, hey, he's gone. You know what? Oh, Ellen, yeah, let's go. Let's run. Look, I still, this part here just makes me really dwell on the fact that he brought them here in the first place. This absolute moron did. Like, you thought you were going to control Kolos? You absolute moron. So I'm busy being angry at him, but yeah, that big oof of a line would hit Elend and should.
Yep. Look, Al, I know I was wrong. I thought I could control them. I didn't mean for this to happen. Ellen fell silent, and Vin could see a hardness growing in his eyes. Not a dangerous hardness like Kelsier, more of a regal bearing. The sense that he was more than he wanted to be. He stood straight, looking down at the man pleading before him. You raised an army of violent monsters and led them in a tyrannical assault, Jastas. You caused the slaughter of innocent villagers. Then you abandoned that army without leadership or control outside the most populated city in the whole of the final empire. Forgive me. Elend looked the man in the eyes. I forgive you, he said quietly. Then in one fluid stroke, he drew his sword and sheared Jastas's head from his shoulders. But my kingdom cannot.
Oh, so good.
You thought that was so good?
Yeah, I thought it was epic.
Certainly epic, but
What was your feeling? I was like, yeah. I was shocked, but I was also like, go boy. I was like, you know what? I don't mind. I really don't mind. What was your am I too bloodthirsty? I suppose I am.
I mean, I had said, I think of Straff several chapters back, that Elend struck me more as the imprison if you have to kind of person. And he's not king anymore, although yes, he's regal, as Vin observed.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that's a terribly weak argument, but I thought it merited bringing up. The big argument I want to make here is all the metal sheet we have talking about the moral sacrifices that Alendi had made and how they hurt him deeply. Whether or not Jastas deserved the death sentence, Elend, I think, lost just a touch of innocence doing this. Now, my mind does go to Ned Stark, the man who passes the sentence
Yes.
should swing the sword, but this is a very different, I think, set of circumstances, and we have that Alendi comparison in this book for a reason, so I'm worried what this act will mean for Elend. But I've been worried about certain things with Elend before that have yet to come to fruition. So what do I know?
I think that yes, it will give him feelings, but it's something that's absolutely necessary. This comes with being a ruler. You don't get to have clean hands ever as a ruler. You don't.
Yeah,
You just don't.
probably. Yeah.
So and it's part of his coming to reality. He is an idealist, absolutely, but he has to realize, yeah, he has to live in the world. He can't just abstain from it. And also he is human. But with the way Vin sees it, this hardness that came into his eyes, that was not like Calcia's, which isn't this ruthless, retribution kind of thing. It's kind of like, oh, I have to be the one that gives justice here. I have to be the one, because she goes, as if he was more than he wanted to be. So it's like, I'm the one that this is a burden I have to take onto myself, and he did it. So I think that's what I got. That's why I did think of Stark, Ned Stark, with this, because it's like Stark does not take joy in it at all, but he knows this is a duty he has to do. I kind of I see Ellen developing that, which I want. And also, yes, of course, I'm angry with justice, so I don't mind. But also just the way that he doesn't have to talk about it more. He doesn't have to do. He takes action. He's like, no, you're in front of me here. There's nothing I can do more. We're not going to do due process here, because it's a time of war. Just boom, execute it. I like this. I like this for Ellen. I do.
I see. I agree. It's an epic moment. It strikes me as quite ruthless. I'm not saying it's not earned. Just I can't get the Ellen Delendi comparison out of my mind here.
Well, that's the thing is, he does have to make these sacrifices. Being a leader, being a king, these sort of things happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he can't
Yeah.
be like, I forgive, and then I forgive you. Now we're going back to Lutherdale and we're gonna fight. He's a freaking he's a liability. This dude. So he needs
He
punishment,
is, yeah.
and so you know what? So the fact is, it's not like Ellen's gonna go on a killing spree. It's just this guy is the problem.
No, but each time he
And
does
that's
this, it's going to become easier and easier for him to do it.
true. This
Just
is
a
true.
little bit.
That's what happens. Yeah.
Vin stared, dumbfounded, as the corpse fell to the ground. Justice's soldiers cried out, drawing their weapons. Elend turned his face, solemn, and raised the point of his bloodied sword toward them. You think this execution was performed in error? The guards hesitated. No, my lord, one of them finally said, looking down. Elend knelt and cleaned his sword on Justice's cloak. Considering what he did, this was a better death than he deserved. Elend snapped his sword back into its sheath. But he was my friend. Bury him. Once you are through, you are welcome to travel with me to Terrace, or you may return to your homes. Choose as you wish. With that, he walked back into the woods. That felt quite epic as well.
And he's like, "Oh, we're still going to Terrace." He's decided they're still going to Terrace.
Yep.
Okay.
And this is how they get an honor guard.
Helps. It helps us. Yeah.
Yep.
And they get redemption. These gods. He could have been like, "Let's kill them and fight them or whatever,"
Yeah.
but he gave them. There is still grace there.
Yep. Vin lingered, watching the guards. Solemnly, they moved forward to collect the body. She nodded to Spook, then dashed out into the forest after Elend. She didn't have to go far. She found him sitting on a rock a short distance away, staring at the ground. An ashfall had begun, but most of the flakes got caught in the trees, coating their leaves like black moss.
Elend?
He looked out, staring into the forest. I'm not sure why I did it, Vin. Why should I be the one to bring justice? I'm not king. Yet it had to be done. I felt it. I feel it still. She laid a hand on his shoulder. He's the first man I've ever killed. He and I had such dreams once. We'd ally two of the most powerful imperial houses, uniting Luthadel as never before. Ours wasn't to have been a treaty of greed, but a true political alliance intended to help make the city a better place. He looked up at her. I think I understand now, Vin, what it's like for you. In a way, we're both knives, both tools, not for each other, but for this kingdom, this people. She wrapped her arms around him, holding him, pulling his head to her chest.
I'm sorry.
It had to be done. The saddest part is he's right. I abandoned them too. I should take my own life with this sword.
You left for a good reason, Elend. You left to protect Luthadel, to make it so Straff wouldn't attack.
And if the Kolos attack before Straff can?
Maybe they won't. They don't have a leader. Maybe they'll attack Straff's army instead.
Elend, this is a question you should have asked yourself before leaving.
Listen, he was focused on his wife, okay?
But also this segment speaks to their presupposition that nothing's gonna happen until we've gotten help. It's like, be a little bit more nihilistic, Elend, please. Enough with the leisure.
Yeah, but even so, the fact that they still think they're going to Terrace, even though they know that the Kolos have no leader,
and have essentially attacked.
Yeah, essentially attacked. Like that's a problem. But they're like, yeah. So they were actually going to continue. This is where they're at right now. Okay, before we go into the next bit.
And it's a nicely written, sweet scene, and it's important for them, and I like all of those elements of it, to be certain.
And the fact that he's also brought back the idea of being knives for the, Vin is Elend's knife. It's like, no, they're both knives. They're tools for the kingdom. That is exactly what their characteristic is.
Yeah.
And we knew that, but it's nice to have a character say that. And also just going back to the beginning of how he started talking about justice here, like it also shows that the pain that he has and probably the anger that he has towards justice, like this is what we were supposed to be. And then look how this man disappointed him. We were supposed to be this and this and this. And then he comes to me and he's that. He's just this little rat that caused so much damage. So it's so disappointing. So he's killed his friend, but he's also got to mourn this friend that he lost in the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Slight potential correction. I don't think they know that the Kolos officially launched their attack, but what other conclusion can you reach when their leader left and they discovered the coins were fake?
Yeah. Vin seems to think, well, maybe they'll just attack Straff, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But they don't know Straff has left either, so
Yep.
there's that.
No, Spook's voice said. Vin turned, seeing him approach through the forest, eyes squinting against the light.
That boy burns way too much tin.
She thought. What do you mean? Elend asked, turning. Spook looked down. They won't attack Straff's army, El. It won't be there anymore.
What?
Spook looked away, shame showing in his face.
I'm a coward.
His words from earlier returned to her.
You knew. You knew the Kolos were going to attack.
Spook nodded. I mean, did any of them think the Kolos weren't?
I think that they thought they were leaving it at a stalemate. They really did. So there were factors that were not brought to mind for them, which was, okay, what's Straff doing? Things like that. And yes, they do want to believe. I think they do want to believe that there is another way to do this.
Yeah.
Than staying home and dying.
Yeah. Hope is important, I suppose.
Sazed would tell you.
Spook nodded. That's ridiculous. You couldn't have known that Jostes would follow us. I didn't, Spook said, a lump of ash falling from a tree behind him, bursting before the wind and fluttering in 100 different flakes to the ground. But my uncle figured that Straff would withdraw his army and let the Kolos attack the city. That's why Sazed decided to send us away. Vin felt a sudden chill.
I've found the location of the Well of Ascension.
Sazed had said.
To the north, in the Terrace Mountains.
You heard this from clubs? Elend was saying. Spook nodded. And you didn't tell me? Elend demanded, standing.
Oh no.
Spook shook his head. You would have wanted to go back. I didn't want to die, El. I'm sorry. I'm a coward. He cringed, glancing at Elend's sword, shying away. Yeah, see, that one act that Elend did totally changes people's perception. Even Vin said, oh no.
Yeah. I like that Vin said, oh no. I like that Vin, she's not going, oh no, Elend is horrible. She's like, oh, Elend is going to be angry. And I think she would have stopped him.
I should damn well hope so, but...
That's why she said, oh no. Yeah.
Spook did nothing wrong here. I don't even... What? What did he do wrong?
He didn't tell him, and you said you didn't tell me? That's a big deal to Elend. You're upset with Elend because he didn't figure it out on his own. Spook knew and didn't help Elend figure it out. That's a problem to Elend.
I mean...
That's the cowardness. That's the cowardice. Because he knew that if I tell Elend we're going to go back, and he didn't. So he withheld that information knowing that it would get him out of trouble. That's why he's a coward.
Okay. That clubs didn't tell Elend the presupposition that Straff could faint is problematic for clubs. I could see a person reasonably believing that Spook should snitch on his uncle and tell Elend, but I don't know if that would have made a meaningful difference in Elend and Vin being convinced that the Well of Ascension and getting help from Terrace wasn't still the optimal path. So I'm not sure it falls to Spook to inform to Elend on Clubs' supposition. Maybe I can understand completely Spook feeling like he's abandoned his family and doomed them to their death in some way and feeling like a coward in that way. But I strongly believe that both Elend and Vin have, even if Straff didn't faint, have both been egregiously and shockingly lackadaisical in their presupposition that there wouldn't be any significant change in the status of the city by the time they got back.
Yeah, I don't think I would use the word lackadaisical. I wouldn't go that far. I would say that they were hopeful enough and desperate enough. That's where I'm at. And Vin putting so much trust in Sazed is also another thing that we're kind of forgetting. That Sazed's actually, the size of Sazed's betrayal here hasn't really been felt yet, because they really did believe him.
Yes. They certainly believed him that the Well of Ascension was out there,
Mm-hmm.
and that going was perhaps more prudent. And maybe I'm misremembering Sazed's set of lies, but again, I sort of presumed that they knew that the city would fall while they were gone. And
Yes.
they trusted that the crew would be smart enough to hide and that they would have to come to the rescue after the fact. So this
Mm-hmm.
idea here that they didn't expect the Kolos to attack
They
just
didn't
isn't.
expect the Kolos to attack first. They didn't expect the Kolos to be the ones. They expected Straff to be there longer. They expected Straff to take Luthadel. That's really what they were hoping for, is that they would come back and have a rebellion against Straff.
I
It's more so that the
and
Kolos are the first one, and they have no leader, so they are rampant. They will not stop.
and even with the possibility of Straff pulling a feint, I don't think there's any basis for them to presume that the Kolos wouldn't end up being involved in some way.
Hmm. I think the thing is that the thing that really changes this is that Justice has lost control of the Kolos. It's not just It's not two armies now with two brains behind it. It's one unstoppable force and an army with a brain behind it. So
Yes, but
there is enough that's changed here, in my opinion.
gotcha.
Mm.
Hurry up, Ellen, Vin, and Spook Fellowship. Ride like you're trying to save people. Elend paused as if realizing he'd been stepping toward the boy. I'm not going to hurt you, Spook. I'm merely ashamed of you. Get off your high horse, Elend. I've said it 1,000 times already this stream, but you guys who set the pace as a passive jaunt through the countryside to Terrace when the world is at stake
Honeymoon.
and you choose to be ashamed of, I'm very upset with Elend right now. Spook lowered his eyes and then sank down to the ground, sitting with his back to an aspen.
The thumping's getting softer. Elend.
Vin whispered. He turned.
Sazed lied. The well isn't to the north.
What?
It's at Luthadel.
Vin, that's ridiculous. We'd have found it.
We didn't,
She said firmly, standing, looking south. Focusing, she could feel the thumping washing across her, pulling her. South. The well can't be to the south, Ellen said. The legends all place it north, in the Terrace Mountains. Now, at that, I was like, well, it's possible that the Lord Ruler switched north and south over the course of 1,000 years. But again, I think I fall back on it's portable because Vin felt it getting closer.
Mm-hmm. Same, yeah. And there is enough evidence of like the weather and stuff like that that makes it seem like that was a fixed place. Yeah.
Yeah. Vin shook her head, confused.
It's there. I know it is. I don't know how, but it is there.
Elend looked at her, then nodded, trusting her instincts.
Oh, Sazed, you probably had good intentions, but you may have doomed us all.
If the city fell to the Kolos, how fast can we get back?
That depends.
Go back? Spook asked, looking up. They're all dead. They told me to tell you the truth once you got to Tathingdwen so you wouldn't kill yourselves. Okay, so they did tell him, or he over...
They did.
Okay, I
You
totally...
didn't overhear it. Yeah.
Wow, okay. So much of what I have said is context changed, because I thought clubs had just intimated. So that's a touch embarrassing, but hey, there's probably value in hearing that.
Mm-hmm. How does hearing that make you feel about how you think about Spook now, because I don't think it should change what you feel about whether
I
Spook's done something wrong or not.
I agree. I don't think he did anything wrong.
Yeah.
I think at the very least either Elend or Vin should have considered.
Mm.
I think, yeah,
Yeah.
should have considered
I don't
one
think
of
it
those two
changes anything
options.
that you said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, they already presumed that the city would fall and that the crew would be in hiding by the time they got back. So if you don't think they're gonna die in whatever attack happens, fine, but the city's still gonna fall and people will still die regardless. Yeah, very frustrated with Ellen. And Spook did nothing wrong here.
Okay.
He had his job to protect Vin
Mhm.
and Ellen. And it may not
Yeah,
feel
but
good, but he did
he
it.
did that job, yeah, but he did that job also for himself. And
And
that's what makes him feel guilty as
yeah,
well.
go back. Oh, they're all dead. They told me to tell you the truth once you got to Tathingdwen, so you wouldn't kill yourselves climbing the mountains in the winter for nothing. But when Clubs talked to me, it was also to say goodbye. I could see it in his eyes. He knew he'd never see me again. So they didn't. Okay.
No,
So he
no, they did
didn't.
both. They did both. He said they told me to tell you the truth
The
once you
truth
got to Paddington.
being that they didn't know where the Well of Ascension
Mhm.
was. But Spook said I could see it in his eyes. He knew he'd never see me again. That means he didn't outright say that they were going to die or expecting to die.
Mhm.
But to be fair, they all, including Ellen and Vin, should have
Mhm.
expected death to occur. And,
Mhm.
maybe some of them could make it to the underground somehow, but
I think that they did, but they just hoped it wasn't that sure of a thing. I think
yeah.
they lied to themselves in a way.
Yeah.
Spook knows Spook did something wrong. That's why he's feeling guilty.
Yeah. Vin saw a moment of uncertainty in Ellen's eyes, a flash of pain, of terror. She knew those emotions because they hit her at the same time.
Sazed, Breeze, Ham.
Ellen grabbed her arm. You have to go, Vin. There might be survivors, refugees. They'll need your help. She nodded, the firmness of his grip, the determination in his voice giving her strength. Spook and I will follow. It should only take us a couple of days hard riding, but an Alamancer with pewter can go faster than any horse over long distances.
I don't want to leave you.
I know. It was still hard. How could she run off and leave him when she'd only just rediscovered him? Yet she could feel the Well of Ascension even more urgently now that she was sure of its location. And if some of her friends did survive the attack.
It is like, because there's the Well of Ascension. They were convinced that the Well of Ascension was elsewhere. The world is ending. So for Vin, the world is ending. I need to go to the Well of Ascension. There's bigger things afoot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Elend as well said that I need to think more globally. He had the idea as well. I need to think further out, and that's how I'm going to help these people. So that was what was happening. Now they've got the Well of Ascension right there. So both of their objectives are at the same place. So it makes them a lot easier, a lot happier to go there.
Yeah.
They really did think that they had to leave. They really did. Now that the Well of Ascension and the is not where it's supposed to be, that they know that it's a lie, that Vin's thumping whatever, that whole thing, now that they aligned, it's like all systems go. But I understand what you mean. Your frustration is like they had to do this. They had to go out here to figure this out. They had to
I,
walk out here. But I think it gives us a lot of character stuff. It's the betrayals here and there and guilt and everything. It's yeah, it builds a lot.
yeah, I just wish that they had been out a bit longer or that we got more time with them while they were out of the city so it would feel a little bit less whiplashy to me. But I will
Mhm,
say, as you mentioned, an important element of Vin having left the city is that she could observe that the thumping direction changed, which
mhm,
is clearly an important reason that I think
mhm.
Sanderson included this trip out. 4.
Yeah, and I still don't understand why she didn't. Or I guess I don't understand. Like I understand that it's plausible that it's just they in such a rush they didn't get to talk to Sazed. Be like, no, there's thumping. Like Sazed completely dismissed this whole thumping thing because he just needs them to believe it. He's already given up. So
Yeah.
like, that would have given you pause, but that's how much they trust Sazed's knowledge.
Yep. Vin gritted her teeth and opened up her pouch and pulled out the last of her pewter dust. She drank it with a mouthful of water from her flask. It scratched her throat going down,
It's not much.
she thought.
It won't let me pewter drag for long.
They're all dead, Spook mumbled again. Vin turned. The pulses thumped demandingly from the south.
I'm coming.
She thinks.
Elend, please do something for me. Don't sleep during the night, when the mists are out. Travel during the night if you can, and keep your wits about you. Watch for the mist spirit. I think it may mean you harm.
He frowned, then nodded. Vin flared pewter, then took off at a run toward the highway. I'm glad she at least warned him about that, and it'll be very interesting to see them travel back in the night with the mist.
This made me really want for that highway thing, not the highway thing, those pins in the ground between the town and Lutherdale. I really wish that was around, so that would help her go a lot quicker. But she just has to run. Yeah.
The Alamantic Highway. Remember that?
Yes, that's it. Yes, so I don't know. She said highway, and that's what I thought. I was like, I wish that would help, but I don't know where that highway is anymore. Anyway, I don't think it's the same direction, so not gonna help. Just run, Vin, because that's not a lot of pewter. She did say it's not a lot of pewter, but she's gonna keep going. I love the cinematic thing of that. Like, let's go.
Yup.
But also they also agree. They seem to all have understood that the attack will probably be over by the time they get there. They got to hurry, but the attack will probably be over. And yeah, we're getting closer. Woohoo!
Yep.
Finally,
Anything else to say?
Spook did what he thought was right.
Yes.
That's it.
Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Subscribe to that Darn Kita if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel. And we'll see you next time. Okay, thanks, bye.
Okay, bye.